There we go. So again, thanks for your interest. We just put out that request for proposals. We're really very excited about this. And the role of the Housing Trust is to own this piece of land to facilitate housing. And we have some capital that we can loan to the project for pre-development and construction financing. That's what a Housing Trust does. And this is our first, let me let Shauna in here. Welcome, Shauna. So the Housing Trust has done a previous project and did a previous RFP. This is the first time that I have done it. Good afternoon. And our hope is that this meeting helps facilitate a collaborative approach. We would like to do this more and more in the future. And so part of today's purpose is to say, okay, what are questions do people have about the land and the project? Can we figure out a way to make sure that the right partners and developers get together and really see who maybe is the best person to solve the problem of bringing good housing to this particular lot, and then you know, hope, like I said, continue to do this over and over again. But we really do want to enter into that spirit of, okay, there's people who need housing. How can we work together in this ecosystem of developers we're in to make that happen the best and the fastest? And we, as the trust, we're not developers. Like I said, we own the land and we can provide some of the financing. So this is a learning curve for us too. We hope to help get answers that we don't have for you and answer any questions that we can. I think we're all in this boat of knowing that we need new and additional solutions to meet the huge need of housing that we have in our region. And also, we know that to deliver good solutions, we need them to be done fast and with experience. So we're trying to walk that line in figuring out the best project going forward. So to start, can you folks take a quick second to introduce yourselves?
I can start. I'm Hilary Crosby. I'm the Executive Director of Caring Choices, a local nonprofit.
My name's Amilcar Avendanya. I'm also with Caring Choices. I'm the HIV Program Manager.
This is Barbara Hanna. I'm the President of Caring Choices, and I also am working with Home Health Care Management, which is a case management company, and we're doing work with the Department of Healthcare Services on low-income personnel with wraparound services for what we would call 811 projects, which is another type of HUD housing project. And we are in the process of also applying for some health components with CalAIM. There's a lot of movement going on with different types of waivers right now. So.
Teresa Dantor, Director of Rental Housing Development with CHIP.
Shauna, also with CHIP.
And nice to Zoom meet you, Teresa. I know we were trying to find time to connect. Look forward to that.
I am Dawn Smith with Access Home, the Executive Director. And I'm Marilyn Winston with Access Home as well.
I couldn't hear your names real well. It's a little murky there. Could you repeat them, please?
I'm Dawn Smith.
Dawn?
Dawn, yes. Thank you.
Nice.
And I'm Marilyn Winston.
Hi, Marilyn.
I'll jump in. I'm Don Ajamian. I'm owner of Don Ajamian Construction up in Reading, but probably more importantly for this group, I'm also part owner of a new company by the name of Emergent 3D, and we are bringing 3D printing technology to California. We're starting with some projects up here in Reading. We've got some approved plans, and we're working with Access Home on those. And the thought is perhaps, we would team up on this project here as well, I suppose.
Hi, this is Jessica. I'm a project manager with Rural Communities Housing Development Corporation.
With Rural Community Housing as well, my name is Allie Campbell and I'm a project manager with them.
Okay. I think that's everybody.
One more. David Weinmore with Hignall. We're a contractor and developer.
Pardon me, David.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so we have some service providers. Caring Choices, primarily a service provider, but looking to get into housing and partner with developers. Is that correct?
Yes.
And Chip Housing, developer and service provider, property manager. Although Chip also partners with service providers. Is that correct? Other service providers like behavioral health and yes. Okay. Some help from the City of Oroville, and some developers that I have not worked with yet, but it's really nice to meet you guys. So for rural community housing development, do you provide your own services or do you partner with service providers as well?
We also partner with service providers.
Okay. So I guess I want to open it up to see if there were questions that had come up about the RFP and what we were asking, what we had put out there so far.
So this is Barb Hanna, and I do have some questions as it relates to just the process and maybe baby steps, kind of like making sure I'm understanding. When you talk about a land trust, and let's say we build, Caring Choices has funds to build I'm just picking numbers. There's no relation, there's no reality to any of this, but let's just call it 20 units on your property. What happens after, I'm assuming there's like a lease agreement, kind of like what Hong Kong did with China, 100-year lease.
Yeah.
So you think, oh, that's going to be forever. Well, it won't be in my lifetime, but what happens at the end of the term to the building that's developed? And can you talk about that?
Yes. Our hopes would be that it's more successful than what happened with Hong Kong and China.
Yes, one would hope.
So we are also still working on this. So as a housing trust, our real job was to raise money to lend. There's a state grant program that we still hope to get local government support so that we can apply for. It's just a way for the region to have very flexible financing to get projects going. We then received this land donation, and there has been a lot of interest in creating an actual land trust in the community, but we're not there yet. So it became possible for the Housing Trust to really act in the capacity of a land trust. And so we are still open to options for what happens, but we are leaning towards that really acting like a land trust option, because it does mean that, so basically what happens is the ownership of the buildings and improvements on the property are split from the ownership of the land itself. So there's one owner for the land, and then there's one owner for improvements and the actual building. And so to some extent that could work with the same kind of turnover that affordable housing experiences now. It could be rehabbed at the end of its affordability covenants. It could be sold, it could go market rate, but keeping the land in the ownership of the trust means that at least that land value is set aside for the preservation of affordable housing and makes whatever buildings end up on it that much more affordable in the future. It has been suggested to us that as part of that agreement, there is some income for the trust on the lease, at least for a limited term. And we would want to find a rate that makes that still really attractive for whoever develops that property, to make sure that good housing can go up and that agreement isn't slowing the development down. And we're open to talking about options for that. But that's basically how it would work. And the standard for land trust leases is usually 99 years as well. So that's what we were leaning towards, but we do have some flexibility.
So again, thank you for that, Lauren. This again is me being naive and not understanding how it works. But I think
Oh, my comfort zone.
if I can ask these basic questions, and I'm pretty direct, so I don't want to be offensive, but I want to understand the relationships and why is everybody at the table. I think we talked about the organizations, but for example, I'm familiar with Hignall and Hignall. I know who they are. I know that they manage property. I'm familiar with residential care facilities because I've worked with them in other capacities. And I'm not picking on you, David, but I understand what they kind of do. So why would a developer or a contractor, which I also want to say Don's another contractor. So why would you guys want to join parties with this? Because the way I approach business is that everybody has to get some of their needs met through it. Because if you don't set up your relationships that way, it's not, to me, it's just not a good way to do work. And so what do you get out of it? Because I want to, and not, again, I don't want this to sound strange, but I want to understand it, because then if I understand it, I can, work better together, if that's making any sense. So again, pardon my naivety, but I'm also being very direct.
Yeah, no worries at all. David from Hignall. So yeah, we're honestly just here how we can help. Like you mentioned, affordable housing isn't primarily what we've done in the past, but it's a need we see and that we're exploring to see if it's something that we can help out with. So really just here to learn the process and see, work with organizations that we can help out and be involved with. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, so I guess it's like when my building was built by Modern Building, one of my offices was built by Modern. And so when we engaged in that, Modern Building ended up, paying for all of the services that you need to do, permits and all the things that occur when you build something. And then they build in their profit, if you will. Okay, and we all have to make, no matter what your tax status is, we all have to have a profit, because no profit, no mission. So I want to understand, do the developers like Don, do you end up owning part of it too? Or is it just the fact that you get money by building something? And I'm trying to understand that relationship, I guess.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so from our perspective, again, I'm here representing Emergent 3D. Our founder and CEO is Matt Guile. He couldn't be here. He just had a prior commitment. But our angle is Emergent 3D would not have any ownership. We'd make a little bit of money in the process of construction. But what we have to offer is this new technology that does not yet exist in California. And we are looking at the ability, because of the process of 3D printing these homes, we're looking at potentially saving about 40% of the cost of construction compared to conventional construction. And in addition to that, this computer-controlled printing can really create some very beautiful, unique designs that, typically affordable housing, I don't mean to paint it all in one picture, but you get a lot of the not in my backyard crowds. And so at a very affordable price, we could print something that's really quite attractive, maybe to make the NIMBYs more jealous of the houses we're building as opposed to the other way around. So really, that's why we're at the table. It's a new technology. I've been a contractor for 30 plus years, but this phase is a startup. And so we see it as potentially an avenue towards actually building some affordable housing and doing so in an attractive fashion.
Yeah, I'm familiar with 3D as it relates to prostheses for patients, but not construction for buildings. So that's kind of fascinating.
So it's going
Yeah,
to,
it's, I'm sorry, go ahead, Lauren.
for some context, the housing trust and the models that we're based on is in addition to being flexible and regional, we have options that some traditional financing, either for market rate commercial or for government funded projects, wouldn't have. We can work with a broader spectrum of both investors and donors and a broader spectrum of developers. And so, like I said, we're trying to walk a line where maybe we can open the door to some new development partners. We have some amazing and established affordable housing developers in our region, and some who are coming from outside of the region when funding is available, like the disaster recovery funds that have become available recently. But often those projects are at a bigger scale. They take a lot of planning and a lot of expertise. And so part of our interest is looking to see if there are ways we can bring newer developers into housing. Like I said, that runs then against the tension of it's not the established way to do it. And so there are problems to solve and partnerships that need to be made and funding that needs to be established. But we are able to reach out to a broader spectrum of developers and work at scales that projects that are, generally tax credit projects are going to be more units because of that cost and the expertise required for them. We're always going to be interested in ways that we can start filling in those smaller scale developments and getting those projects going concurrently with the larger projects. That may answer some of your question, Barbara, and that we've reached out to a pretty wide range of people in development and services. And on the service provider side too, looking for ways to bring more service providers into the creation of housing if we can find appropriate development partners for them or help them find appropriate development partners that would be able to make their lives as service providers easier if we can construct housing and community around the services they're trying to deliver. So we've got this one project in Oroville with some specific requirements to move forward, but we'd also like to, like I said, keep doing this, keep partnering and keep bringing in developers and service providers going forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for asking.
Thanks, Dawn and David.
So on this RFP, the specific piece of land in Oroville had previously was the planned site for Base Camp Village, the second Base Camp Village project. The first one was 12 units. 11 of them were, the owner operator is Cam&R now, so they're providing services. So it was 11 units that were Section 8 units and one for a resident manager. And I know that they had previously had 12 units approved on the second lot, although it can carry more. So that was one of my questions for the City of Oroville is on this 1.26 acres zoned R2, what is the likely amount of units that we're looking at?
Yes, the lot is zoned R2, not R3, but R2, which has some limitations. We have a gross acreage of 1.31 acres on our GIS.
Okay.
And the maximum density is 14 units per acre, which allows 18 units on this site.
And what is the likelihood of a density bonus for affordable housing on this site?
We can discuss that or talk about that. There would have to be some community benefit provided. And affordable housing is certainly one of those.
Okay. And if somebody were to successfully go through that process, that would be, we're looking at a max of about 27 units if there was a density bonus awarded.
I want to say the maximum bonus is 25%, but I'll have to double check that.
Okay. It's more like 22.
Yeah, I'll look at it while we're still on the phone, see if I can get an answer.
Okay, thanks, Wes.
So Lauren, does that mean you actually build 18, but the project is counted as if you had built 22? Or does it mean you actually add additional units in?
You actually add additional units. Because you're doing a project that provides community benefit, you get to build more units on that site.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I believe we had, so this neighborhood has several low-income housing developments already there. There are a couple nearby that the Housing Authority is working on now. It's really close to transportation and services. It's really literally right down the street from county services. So that's a bonus. And there are a lot of families already in the neighborhood. And we are going to be doing some outreach to the neighborhood to get input from them about the kinds of housing and services they'd like to see. And it had come up, the idea of adding some commercial elements to development as well. It's not a requirement for us, it's just something that was identified as might be needed in the neighborhood. So I just want to put that out there for projects that would require a zoning change and approval. I don't know if Wes has more to say about that. But it's something that we would consider in a proposal. It just would have to go through the process of a change.
One of the things that we have noticed about the area is it's probably not a food desert by definition, USDA definition, but it is an area of low incomes and lack of availability of services, including food. And so we would highly encourage the inclusion of a commercial component. We have one code section that talks about neighborhood food production. And I'll look and double check on our zoning code here if that's possible in this R8 R2 zone. We exchanged an email before, didn't we, about that, Lauren?
I think we did.
Yeah.
I'd have to pull it up.
So for those of you who want complete review of the possibility of density bonuses, of course, the design of the project would have a lot to do with how much bonus could be approved. It is Oroville Municipal Code, Chapter 17.24. And it talks about parking reductions and other types of things that can work for a community benefit.
So this site, it is close to transportation, like bus stops and stuff?
Yes, it is. It's Monday, so I just want to double check my work here. So on one side is Table Mountain Boulevard. And then, like I said, county services are right at the end of the street, the other direction. So I believe you have transportation that goes both of those places regularly. And
are you able to release the address by any chance? Is that?
Yes. I think it's on the RFP.
It is on the RFP, and it's 86 Mono Ave. And I encourage you all to drive by. I went and I'm usually not in Oroville, but I took the drive there to see it just the other day. And it's beautiful. And everything else, I was surprised that everything else around it is already developed. You know, there's the road on one side, and there are two single family homes on either side of it with multi-unit housing across the street that I believe is low income, I'm not sure. And behind it, backyards that face another street, I'm not sure which, that are single family.
Okay,
It's
sorry, I
reasonably-
missed that. I looked all over, couldn't find it, so I just noticed it. Thank
My
you.
apologies.
It's reasonably flat as well, so it's
Yeah.
easily developable. So the neighborhood food and beverage sales is allowed on this parcel with an administrative permit. So it's just a perfunctory permit application for that.
And Wes, do you know if there are any other commercial uses that would just require an administrative permit?
I don't believe there are. The
Okay.
table that I'm using is table 17.28.010-1. It's in the Oroville Municipal Code. And it has a long laundry list of uses in the R2 zone.
Okay.
I'd like to note that R2 does not include transitional housing or residential care facilities of 7 beds or more.
Thank you. So I know the original intention of the first Base Camp Village was to apply for project-based vouchers. I think they ended up having to get emergency vouchers because there is a process for that. I think most people here are pretty familiar with it, but I tried to get the Housing Authority to join. Ed is out in Tamara already had a meeting at this point, but I will send her contact information out if folks have questions about project-based vouchers. They would have to release an RFP, which I think is coming in the fall. And there are a couple requirements. You have to do the environmental review before you start building, and it does mean that federal prevailing wage is required throughout the project. But I just wanted to put that out there, and I will send the contact for Tamara if anybody has questions about the voucher process specifically. In terms of people served, I think it was it Jessica? Did you, somebody reached out to me about whether we would accept housing for seniors. And we really are open to, really is income-based is what we're looking for this project. But yes, seniors would certainly be included in that. I think I just read that they're the fastest growing unhoused population in Butte County, the over 55. So yeah, as long as the income requirements are met of being under 60% of area median income with at least some units for under 30% of area median income, we are open to whatever communities are being served.
I thought that they already had plans and stuff for Base Camp Village 2. Are those an option at all still, or?
Yeah, they had another 12 unit. It basically was going to be a copy of the first. Base Camp had designed 2 buildings of the 6 units each, 4 studios in the middle and a 1-bedroom on each end, as well as a community room. And in this case, I think it only took up a smaller portion of the site. And because there could potentially be more units on that site, it came up in the meeting, we were wondering if it was another phase of the project that they were planning on. And that would be an option if somebody brought forth a proposal that had different phases to reach the density that the parcel allows. But yes, Base Camp Village did have plans. You could contact Ron Reed about those, but I imagine he would be happy to share.
Okay.
Any other questions at this time for me about the trust, about the parcel, about the process? Okay.
I'm not sure if I'll speak for myself, that I know enough to ask the right questions. And so if you were me and you were very not knowledgeable, where would you suggest I start reading? Where would you suggest that I look for additional information to try to educate ourselves to figure out if this is the right direction or it's even possible? I mean, it's like, I know California, because of the work I'm doing with the State Department of Healthcare Services and the waivers, there's assisted living waiver projects that hopefully will be expanded to the rest of the state. What does that mean? It means Medi-Cal will actually pay for residential care facilities. Right now, there are only, I want to say 13 or 14 counties, and the furthest one north is Sacramento. And we've been advocating to the state that you need to expand it. They're telling me that we don't have the staff capacity to go and negotiate or to get assisted living waiver aid or assisted residential care facilities, if you will, interested. And I said, I guarantee you that if you open it, we'll help those of us that are doing this work. Will help find those facilities, because I'm trying to transition people from skilled nursing facilities into residential care facilities using assisted living waiver. With this project that you just mentioned, though, with it being level 2 or R2, you're saying that we can't use it for residential care facilities. Is that correct, Wes? That's what I'm hearing.
A residential care facility or transitional housing with 6 beds or 6 units or fewer is allowed by right in the R2 zone. If you go to 7 units or more, then that's not allowed in this zone.
Okay.
So here's a question, Wes. If there were, say there were 20 units, but only 6 of them were residential care.
I knew that was coming. The maximum density is 18.
Okay.
But I'd have to look and see if 6 of them, were residential care, and I'll look into that and provide you an answer.
Thank you, Wes. So Barbara, to answer your question, if I were you, I would hope that my RFP had been so clear that it was useful and I had all the information that I needed to get going. But
this is on me.
I'm just teasing. So it sounds like Caring Choice's primary role is potentially to have some funding to offer, and you provide services. So with this particular lot in mind, if you had more questions about the use, contacting the city and looking at the particular chapters about the zoning for it would be your step to see if you could serve your clients in that on that particular lot. And next, you would need to partner likely with a developer. It doesn't necessarily have to be an affordable housing developer, but they'll probably know more about the kinds of financing and vouchers that you're working with. But it seems like that would be the piece you're missing. And for a project to go, you really have to, you've got the planning step, the pre-development of the site, construction of the project, and likely it's going to be turning over owners at that point, although they're, I know CHIP has a development model where they are really owners throughout. So you'd have to decide who's doing what in your timeline. And if you have questions or need some help finding developers to work with, please feel free to reach out to me and I can put you in touch.
Thank you, Lauren.
Yeah.
Dawn, I have a question for you. Do you think that are there grants out there that would help fund like the 3D printing type of a model, or is that generally just a construction cost?
And actually, maybe Dawn and Marilyn can help answer that question, but I believe so. I mean, that's something we're actively looking for as we talk to different county officials and and other organizations, there's a lot of angles to the 3D printing. I mean, there's the training side, there's the kind of the green construction side. There's a lot of different angles that perhaps would have some grant funding. And I think that's what projects like this take, is that layering of funding. And so my hope is that we've lowered the cost enough to where maybe it just makes it a little more, easily, to make it pencil for somebody.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, any more questions?
I have a question for Wes. It sounds like the city of Oroville would really like to see part of this parcel used for some commercial development, and it sounds like that would really help the neighborhood. And I imagine when we survey, the neighbors are going to say, yeah, we want that. So my question is, how many units could still be built and do a viable commercial section of it? Do you have any guidance on that from the city, or where would one go to get that?
So the first part of your question is, would the residents say, yeah? I think so. There's 3 convenience markets and a Dollar General, plus another convenience market across Highway 70. So not good access to fruits and vegetables and that sort of thing. The second part of your question is, the zoning of R2 allows 14 units per acre. And let's say hypothetically you decided you wanted to split that lot, which is a pretty easy process, and then rezone the one along the street, let's say, as commercial. That could be done. It takes a while, it takes about 6 months to get that accomplished. But if one acquired the parcel, then one could build in the back and then go through the process of getting it rezoned to C1, C2, or neighborhood commercial, any one of those. Yes, we would encourage that. We'd like to see more access to fruits and vegetables there in that area. There's hundreds of housing units, mostly multifamily, a lot of affordable ones. There's I believe 200 under construction right now, and affordable units. And so there's lots of need for commercial retail balance up there.
Are there, besides fresh food, are there other commercial needs that are not being met, like laundromats, or do people all have laundries where they live?
Most of the large multifamily ones do have laundries and community centers and such, but yeah, there's always a need for I don't know, drive-through dairies. That was common when I was a kid. Anything that
I remember them.
It may still be somewhat common, but and any we'll call like a CVS or something that has lots of sundries and medical facilities and that's, or a pharmacy and that sort of thing.
So that's missing too.
Up there, of course, the county health is there, centered there. But I don't know how many pharmacies there are up north of the river there.
Wes, I've got a question for you. Would that zoning, that location allow for like a live-work type of structure that had commercial retail on the first floor and then housing above it?
It would have to be rezoned into mixed use for that to be approvable. But like I said, the neighborhood commercial, which is a small scale neighborhood serving commercial, could be allowed in there. So you could fudge it without being a full commercial project.
Gotcha.
So is that kind of like a little bodega type of a thing? Is that what we're thinking? Like little,
Yeah, the code that describes it all is Oroville Municipal Code 17.16.220. And it also is something that's available to WIC and SNAP types of commodities.
okay. Great, thank you. I'll check that out.
And I will send a follow-up and include in those notes Tamara's contact at the Housing Authority if anyone has questions about project-based vouchers, and links to those sections of the code that Wes mentioned.
And would you be able to send a link to the recording as well?
Yes, yes. And just for my own curiosity, Jessica or Ali or Teresa or Shauna, you guys have established affordable development portfolios. Have you worked on any mixed projects with commercial?
Not that I'm aware of. We mostly do just residential.
Okay.
We have one in Gridley.
Okay.
But it is challenging with the pro forma to make it work.
Okay.
And with the limited number of units on that lot, it makes it further challenge. The challenges are even greater.
Okay. Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, like I said, I'll send out notes and the link. I'm always available if questions do pop up. Barbara, if you think of more, please feel free to get in touch. And otherwise, thank you all so much for your time and your interest and your willingness to work on this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, take care, everybody.
Meeting everybody.
Thank you.